Number 1. I'm a 24-year-old girl, but at the time of this story, I was about 16 and my younger sister was about 14. We were living in a pretty bad neighborhood, along with my mom, just the three of us, as my 4 older brothers had moved away and my dad had passed away 3 years prior. The house we lived in was old and in kind of bad shape, but we kept it very clean and nice on the inside. It had its benefits though. It came with a huge backyard. I'm talking one fully complete with a garage-sized tool shed that was totally dilapidated and abandoned, but we couldn't afford to tear it down, and it also held sentimental value. And it sat right at the edge of our short metal fence, and on the other side of the fence was a large unfenced plot of land that also belonged to us. We called it the back 40. Now my mom is not mentally all there. She has the mental and emotional capacity of a 15-year-old girl, but she's so stunningly beautiful, few people notice. She was also a bleeding heart, meaning basically she was very trusting and wanted to save the world, while also not making very smart choices, and honestly putting her tiny 4'11", 90-pound self in danger, as well as me and my sister a lot. One of the people she constantly tried to save was her best friend Karen. Karen was your typical white trash, hardcore, drink a fifth of cheap vodka in the morning type of alcoholic. She'd show up at our place hammered a few times a week, sometimes for food or money, to hang out, to steal the change off my dresser. You get the idea. Well, one day, she shows up with a camper and a borrowed truck. She tells my mom she needs somewhere to keep it because her new husband kicked her out. I immediately think it's a bad idea. It looks like it hadn't been touched since the 70s. It probably has rats and it's probably stolen. But my mom, the bleeding heart, says fine, you can park it behind the shed. I agree, because then it won't be an eyesore at least. Mistake number 1. She parks it between the metal fence and the back of the shed, so the very end of it and the hitch are visible from the front of the shed. We all kind of forget it exists for a few months. Then one day, our cousin abandons a puppy at our house. It's a pit bull, and it takes to us immediately. We love him unconditionally, and he loves us back just as hard. We don't even mind that he barks at anyone walking by, or any new people in the house. He usually barks, sniffs, then loves them anyway. We begin to feel kinda safe at the house, a feeling I hadn't had since the last of my brothers left home. A few months later, it's summertime and my mom is teaching summer school, so my sister and I are home alone. It's about noon and we decide to go sunbathing in the backyard. We toss on our bikinis, grab towels, and lay out in the sun, reading and talking, bonding like only a 16-year-old and 14-year-old can. But I start to feel uneasy. I start to feel like I'm being watched. I don't know why, but I just get the feeling we should go inside. My sister is a very nervous girl sometimes, prone to crying and breaking down when she's spooked. She's the baby of 6 kids, can't blame her, and I don't want to alarm her in case it's nothing. So I just tell her I'm hungry and we should go inside. She agrees quickly, and I can tell she's rushing as she grabs her stuff. Fuck, she feels it too. Probably doesn't want to seem like a baby though. We basically run inside the house. Our kitchen is at the back of the house, with a big window above the sink. We stare out of it. We can see the whole backyard. As soon as we're inside, my sister asks if I felt like I was being watched. I said yes. We have a creepy neighbor who is in love with my mom, Karen's ex-husband, who sometimes creeps around the woods next door. My sister says maybe it's him. Normally I'd agree, but I knew he was currently in jail for arson. I start to get freaked out, and then, out of the corner of my eye, I see a flash of a man near the old camper behind the fence. It's so far away, and he moves so quickly, I didn't get a good look. My sister sees it too and freaks out. Our pit bull is too short to see out the window, so he calmly sits at our feet. My sister calls his name, and thinking quickly, lets him out the back door. He goes bounding out, catching the scent of the intruder. Our view is blocked by the shed, but we lock the back door and crack the window, and we watch and listen to him barking viciously, a man's voice saying something. Then more barking. A struggle, and then nothing. We can't see what's going on, but we're freaking out. I tell my sister to find the house phone. She runs upstairs to look for it. I run around and lock the front door, double check the windows, and snap the back window shut. I still can't see my dog, and now I can't hear anything either. My heart is pounding. This kind of neighborhood. The cops take hours to come. I'm struck with the memory of calling 911 when my dad collapsed before I knew he was dead as soon as he hit the floor from a massive heart attack, telling the operators my dad was dying. It took them an hour to show up. What could some man do to us in an hour? I'm so scared because above all else I love my sister. I grab a steak knife from the counter and hide the rest in a drawer. My sister comes bounding down the stairs, already on the phone telling the operator what's going on. I tell her to go sit in the living room to try to see if the neighbors are outside, maybe flag one down. All of a sudden, our dog comes bounding around the side of the shed, happy as a clam. I can see the back door from the window, and I check to see if it's clear. It is. He reaches the back door the same time I do, and I let him in, slamming the door shut behind him. My sister comes running in and we both examine the dog to see if he's been hurt. What we see at that moment still makes me nauseous to think about it. We look at each other embarrassed. I don't know what to say. I don't know if my sister is old enough to know what we're looking at. We're silent until she breaks quiet. Is that cum on his face? I throw up in the sink. That answers her question. I lift my head from the sink and out the window. I see a man jump the fence toward the back 40 away from us and take off running into the woods that neighbor our house. My sister, still on the phone, doesn't mention what we found on our dog's face, out of embarrassment, out of fear, maybe because she was scared to admit she knew what cum looked like. I don't know. Those are the reasons I don't mention it to the cops who show up 45 minutes later, though. I'm assuming her reasons were similar. The cops thoroughly checked the woods, but the guy was long gone. They checked the shed, but it had obviously not been entered in years. Finally, they checked the camper. Someone had been living in there for a while. Clothes, CDs, a CD player, dog toys, food, needles, and other drug paraphernalia were found inside. The dog toys explained how the guy was able to calm down our dog long enough to mess with him. He was a sucker for a raw bone or a plushie toy. Police said it was a harmless drifter looking for a place to live and told us to get rid of the camper. We did, that day. I'd like to say my mom learned a lesson, but she didn't. I did, though. My sister is tougher than I thought, and she was probably ready for the sex talk. Number 2. In college, I got into a relationship with a guy. He was fine until he, quote, found Jesus. He quickly went crazy, claiming demons spoke to him, trying to buy weapons from some shady friends we had, fantasizing about how he would hurt people, and becoming incredibly controlling and physically abusive, nearly killing me a few times. Needless to say, I got the fuck out. After a few threats and really crazy behaviors, he left me alone for a while, and I thought that was that. I was heading to my dorm after a meeting one night when I decided to pass it and go to the student union, which was right down the street, to get some ice cream. As I passed the dorm, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and I thought I saw someone in a white shirt duck behind a big signboard. I kept walking, listening carefully. I heard something move and whipped around again. There, a person, his size, staring at me from behind a tree. I couldn't see very well, but it really looked like him. I was mildly freaked out by then, but I just walked a little faster. I'd hear the occasional footsteps and breathing behind me, but I didn't dare stop, or let on that I knew someone, probably him, was there. I knew he owned a gun, and would likely put a bullet into me given the chance. He was that psycho, and upset that I dared to break up with him. I walked all the way to the union, and got some ice cream, and just sat there, in the store eating, unwilling to go back out into the unlit street in case it was my crazy, armed ex. I still hadn't mustered the nerve to head back when my phone buzzed. My heart just about fell out of my chest when I saw the message. It was some of my friends, a sweet couple. They'd been walking way behind me when they saw something that alarmed them enough to text me. "Your ex is walking around the street." They called me before I could even text them back. "Where are you? Your ex is prowling around here near your dorm. He was coming back from the direction of the Union. I think he had a gun. Was he with you? What's going on?" Panicked, I assured them that I had not been with him, but someone who looked like him had been following me, and I was at the Union, and was too scared to go back alone. They practically yelled at me to stay there and not go anywhere, and that they were coming. A few minutes later, they came running into the Union, breathless, eyes wide, asking me why he was by my dorm and what happened. That was possibly what scared me most of all. The boyfriend, who is a black belt in karate and is never scared, looked absolutely terrified. He was coiled into some kind of fighting stance and looking around wildly, afraid that my ex would appear with his gun. They told me they were taking me back to my dorm and calling the cops. They sandwiched me between them, and we walked back to my dorm as quickly as we dared, the boyfriend walking in front and yelling into the darkness that my ex had better not try anything. I let the two of them into my dorm, and we went up to my room, where my roommates put in a frantic call to police. As we peeked out the windows facing the street and side of the dorm, there he was, lurking in the trees to the side of the dorm, looking up. A streetlight reflected something in his hand, something shiny. I saw him tug at the .22 I realized he was carrying and look up. We locked eyes, and I saw this kind of rage in his eyes that froze me. In that moment, I knew he was really out to kill me, and my friends, and I had foiled him this time. He quickly turned and ran away through the trees. We didn't know whether he would come back and try to break in or something, so we called the police again, and lo and behold, sirens within minutes, and officers with guns drawn combing the area. They caught him a few hours later with the .22 in hand. He confessed he was, indeed, going to try to kill me if given the chance, but he didn't want to take pot shots at me with my friends there. Apparently, since I had broken up with him, I was, quote, given over to Satan, and he had a duty to make sure I died and went to hell. Of course, he went to jail and later to a mental hospital, and I moved out of that dorm a week later. I just couldn't live with the thought that he could break out and come after me again. I got some cop friends to keep an eye on my roommates until they could move too. I was never fully the same after that. I was so afraid and paranoid for years and years. Now I can be out and about without any fear, but I still have nightmares about him staring at me through the trees, gun in hand, and rage in his eyes.